Born on June 2, 1956, in New York State, Peter entered the world with the promise of a bright future. Just over a month later, on July 4th, he was snatched from his crib, setting off a chain of events that would soon grip the entire nation. What makes Peter's case particularly haunting is the stark contrast between his family and the typical targets of such crimes. Unlike the affluent families often associated with ransom kidnappings, the Weinbergers were solidly middle class, living in a suburban neighborhood, a detail that both confused and horrified the public. This type of crime could happen to anyone. To understand the depth of the story, we must look into the life young Peter never really got the chance to know. He was the cherished son of ordinary parents, whose dreams for their child were no different from any other family. But in the blink of an eye, their world was shattered, leaving behind a void that could never truly be filled. As we unravel the layers of this case, we'll explore not just the timeline of events, but the reverberations felt after the case, shedding light on the intricate web of human nature and society's darker corners. Independence Day, typically a day of celebration, was shattered for the Weinberger family as they faced every parent's worst nightmare. Peter, just 32 days old, lay peacefully in his crib, sheltered by a mosquito netting, while his mother Betty tended to household chores. In just 10 minutes, their world crumbled. Betty returned to find the netting torn and pushed aside. An ominous ransom note left in its place, written in unforgettable green ink. The kidnappers' demands were clear: $2,000 in small bills to be left by a signpost near the Weinbergers' home by 10 a.m. the next morning. The clock ticked as Detective Frank Abramowitz and his team sprang into action, coordinating with the anxious family and mobilizing resources to meet the demands. But as the hours passed, fear loomed larger with each passing minute. Despite the family's modest means, the ransom was cobbled together with the help of relatives and a bank. Usually closed on Independence Day, it opened to aid in their desperate bid to save Peter's life. Against the wishes of the investigators, news of the abduction spread like wildfire. This culminated in a multitude of reporters and photographers converging on the designated drop-off location, dissuading the kidnapper from revisiting to collect the ransom. As the days stretched into an agonizing blur of uncertainty, investigators raced to unravel the web of deceit spun by Peter's captor. With every lead, a potential lifeline, they orchestrated a strategic dance of deception in a desperate bid to outmaneuver the kidnapper. Their first attempt, a carefully crafted appeal during a news conference, aimed to lure the kidnapper into revealing vital clues. By invoking a supposedly medically recommended baby formula, detectives hoped to exploit the captor's potential ignorance, coaxing them into a trap set at a local pharmacy. But despite their best efforts, the kidnapper remained elusive, slipping through their fingers. Hope was regained when the kidnapper broke the tense silence with a phone call, directing Peter's father, Morris, to leave the ransom by a nearby highway. The exchange, however, yielded only disappointment as the kidnapper failed to materialize, leaving behind instead a cruel taunt in the form of a note. As the investigation gathered momentum, the arrival of the FBI lent new resources to the cause. Handwriting experts scrutinized the ransom notes, seeking the thread that could unravel the mystery. The case of Peter Weinberger stands as a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. The intricate dance between predator and prey unfolded with tragic precision, leaving behind a trail of shattered lives and unanswered questions. Yet, the investigation continued. As investigators meticulously combed through over 2 million public records, their efforts paid off when a federal probation officer discovered a document bearing Angelo Lamarca's unmistakable handwriting, a damning link to the ransom notes that had haunted the Weinbergers. Lamarca's initial denial crumbled under the weight of evidence. His feeble attempts to deflect the blame unraveled. Confronted with the stark reality of his crimes, he grasped at straws, concocting a web of lies in a futile bid to evade justice. But the truth, relentless and unforgiving, emerged, finally casting a harsh light on LaMarca's darkest secrets. In a moment of reckoning, he wrote a confession, a final act of defiance. Angelo LaMarca's apprehension unraveled a tale of random cruelty and desperation. Admitting to the abduction of Peter Weinberger, LaMarca confessed to succumbing to panic just 24 hours later, driven by fear stoked by media coverage. Abandoning the baby in a wooded area near the Northern State Parkway, LaMarca left behind a haunting legacy of tragedy and loss. It truly makes you wonder how the outcome may have been different had media outlets heeded the investigators' warnings and stayed away. Motivated by mounting debts and financial strain, LaMarca's action laid bare the stark realities of desperation and moral decay. Arraigned on charges of kidnapping, his attempts to shift blame to others only proved fruitless. He led investigators to the grim discovery of baby Peter's decomposed remains. The medical examiner's testimony painted a haunting picture of the infant's final days, a struggle against the elements marked by asphyxia, starvation, and exposure. As the details unfolded, the Weinberger family grappled with the weight of their loss, a poignant reminder of the fragility of innocence in a world stained by darkness, setting the stage for the impending trial of Angelo LaMarca, a courtroom saga that captured the attention of a nation. Angelo's trial unfolded with the weight of the community's anguish bearing down upon the courtroom. Indicted on charges of kidnapping and now first-degree murder, LaMarca's defense embarked on a delicate dance of legal maneuvering, trying to shield their client from the full force of justice. In a tension-filled courtroom, Nassau County District Attorney Frank Galata personally prosecuted the case, ensuring that no stone was left unturned in pursuit of the truth. As jury selection unfolded, the process yielded a panel of 12 men, all fathers themselves, ordinary citizens tasked with rendering a verdict. LaMarca's defense strategy hinged on the assertion of temporary insanity, with his attorneys painting a portrait of a man driven to madness by mounting debts and financial woes. Yet as the trial unfolded, conflicting testimonies and expert opinions cast doubt upon LaMarca's claims of insanity, exposing the calculation behind his actions. Ultimately, after roughly 7 hours of deliberation, the jury delivered their verdict: guilty of felony first-degree murder and kidnapping. The jury's decision condemned LaMarca to death, a punishment met with shock by his loved ones. Summed up by the prosecution famously stating, quote, "What mercy was shown baby Peter when he was left in that woods? What mercy did he show then?" As the gavel fell and the sentence was pronounced, the courtroom echoed with the weight of justice, a somber reminder of the irreversible cost of evil. This was just the beginning, however, of LaMarca's legal odyssey, as appeals and pleas for mercy would soon ensue. Angelo LaMarca's final days were fraught with desperate legal maneuvering as he fought against the march towards his execution. Despite over 18 months of postponed execution due to appeals, the wheels of justice continued to roll forward, with LaMarca's stay in the Sing Sing death house nearly doubling the average duration for condemned inmates in the state. In his 11th hour appeal, LaMarca's defense contended that his trial had been tainted by prejudice and unfairness, but his pleas fell on deaf ears as the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit upheld his conviction. With time running out, last-ditch efforts for clemency, including appeals from his attorneys and his wife Donna, failed to sway the New York governor. On the eve of his execution, LaMarca faced his final moments. His last meal consisted of fried chicken, French fried potatoes, vegetables, ice cream, and coffee. The clock ticked towards 11 p.m. on August 7, 1958. In his final moments, LaMarca's stoic facade crumbled, revealing a haunted man. As the lethal injection coursed through his veins, he uttered a single plea: "Maybe they'll save me yet." As the community grappled with the aftermath, questions lingered about the adequacy of the justice system and the measures in place to prevent such horrors from reoccurring, leaving behind a legacy of pain and sorrow that would endure for generations to come. The aftermath of the LaMarca case spurred significant changes in law enforcement protocols. Following Peter Weinberger's abduction and murder, amendments to the Federal Kidnapping Act were swiftly enacted in 1956, allowing the FBI to intervene in kidnapping investigations after just 24 hours, rather than the 7-day waiting period. This marked a pivotal shift in federal intervention policies, enabling law enforcement to respond more rapidly to cases of child abduction. The case also left a lasting impact on the LaMarca family. Angelo's son, Vincent, endured the weight of his father's actions as a young boy, facing the harsh realities of public scrutiny and stigma. Despite the challenges, Vincent drew upon inspiration from his father's ordeal, ultimately pursuing a career in law enforcement as a police detective. However, the LaMarca family struggles with tragedy persisted through the generations. In 1996, LaMarca's grandson, Joey, became embroiled in a murder case, citing genetic predisposition as a factor. This tumultuous family history later served as the basis for the film City by the Sea, shedding light on the enduring legacy of the LaMarca name and the profound impact of the crime perpetrated on the entire Weinberger family.